Hello! In this video, I'm going to be covering some basic Git commands. In this example, I'm going to be working out of a folder that's on my desktop called First Repo. I'm going to go ahead and open up that folder, and then from within this folder, I'm going to right-click and select Git Bash here, which will open the Git Bash already pointing to that folder. From within the Git Bash, I'm going to execute the git init command. As we see in the feedback, the git init command initialized an empty Git repository in that folder where the Git Bash is currently pointing. So we can see there my hidden .git folder. An important thing to note is, regardless of what you want to get back from your repository or what changes you may have accidentally made, you'll never want to modify any contents of the .git folder. So just make a note, you never want to make any changes to this .git folder itself. Now for the sake of example here, I'm just going to go ahead and open up this folder, and you can see inside of the .git folder are several folders and files. So these are files where it keeps track of file history, repository history, and actually stores the files themselves as they're committed to the repository. So I'm not going to dive into that too much, but I did just want to call out that important fact that you should never modify the contents of a .git folder. Alright, now that we have our empty Git repository, I'm going to go ahead and go over to the Git Bash, and I'm going to perform a git status command. The git status command gives a status of the repository. So in this current git status result set, it tells me that we're on the branch master, initial commit, and nothing to commit. And it says create or copy files and use git add to track. So we're going to do just that. I'm going to go back into the folder. Just for the sake of simplicity, I'm not going to actually be working with any real source code files, but rather just a simple set of plain text files. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new text file here called dog.txt. So dog.txt. And now I'm going to go back to the Git Bash, which is pointing to that repository, that folder, and I'm going to do a git status command again. And I'm going to go ahead and execute that. And you can see now that the results that I got back changed. So it now tells me that there is an untracked file of dog.txt, and it calls that out in red. And it tells us, again, Git gives excellent feedback based on commands. So in this case, you can see that it says here, use git add and then the file to include what will be committed. So now that we have the dog.txt file created in our folder, I'm going to go ahead and add this file to the staging area of the repository. So I'm going to go ahead and do a git add, and I'm going to start typing dog, and remember that tab key shortcut. If you start typing and hit tab, it'll autocomplete for us. So I'm going to go ahead and with tab autocomplete that, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, execute this command, and now if I look at my folder, nothing should have changed here, but if I do a git status command, you can see now that that file went from being red and being uncommitted to now it is green, and it says that it will be committed. So it changes to be committed, and it shows a new file of dog.txt. So I'm going to pull up this diagram real quick. This diagram just gives a real simple high-level picture of how you might think about a repository. So you can ignore this cloud and remote repository section here. We're only going to be talking about this bottom portion. So here you can see raw documents. That's like my dog.txt file that I created, or that might be an HTML file or a CSS file. We just executed the add command, which put that file into the index staging area. Sometimes that's referred to as the index, sometimes it's referred to as staging. I included both here because maybe as you're doing research or you're running into an issue and you're trying to figure out what the solution is, you're going to see the verbiage of index and maybe staging as well. So we've now put this dog.txt file in the index staging area. So let's go ahead and go back to the Git Bash. And now here again, note that it says changes to be committed. So currently this file is staged, but it has not been committed to the repository yet. So I'm going to go ahead and do that by performing the git commit command. Now git commit takes a parameter, a mandatory parameter of -m for message, and I'm going to follow that up with space and then a pair of double quotes. And what we're going to do here is we're going to specify the message that we want to attach to this commit in the repository. So when I look back, maybe a year from now, and I look at this repository, this will be the message that I see attached to the change set that we're about to commit. So for this message, I'm going to say add dog file. All right, so that's going to be my commit message. And you can see that I got feedback here, one file changed, and it gives me just a little blurb about that commit. So I'm going to go ahead and do a git status. Again, it's always good to incorporate the git status command if you're ever wondering about the state of the repository, what's committed, what's not, etc. The git status should always be your go-to command. All right, so if I go back to the folder now, again, we can see nothing has changed here, but what's happened through executing those commands is that it's taken this dog.txt file and stored it in the .git folder here, which is the Git repository. All right, next I'm going to go ahead and do a git log command, which shows a log of all of the changes to the repository. So in this case, there's only been one commit. You can see the commit ID here. You can see that I was the one, Raymond Gritzmacher, who committed that, and also the date. And then there's that commit message that I was talking about, add dog file. Again, that's that message, and that'll show up in the repository when we do a git log. All right, the next thing that I want to do now is, again, to simulate the modification to a source code file. I'm going to go ahead and edit this dog.txt text file, and I'm going to put Fido in here, so the name of a dog, and I'm going to go ahead and save that file. So we've made a change to this file, so now I'm back in the git bash, I'm going to do a git status, and you can see here now that it has shown us that dog.txt has been modified. And again, taking a close look at what Git gave us here for feedback, we can use a git add, which will update the file that'll be committed, or we can do a git checkout -- file to discard the changes in the working directory, which is our repository folder. So in this case, I want to keep my changes to dog.txt. So what I'm going to do here is do a git add. So again, git add. I'm going to use tab to autocomplete for me, and I'm going to go ahead and execute that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do a git status. And again, we can see now that the file has changed from red to green. So this change has been staged. So it's in that staging area. Again, if I go back to this image, it's put in the staging area. And now we need to execute the commit command to get it in the repository. So again, I'm going to go back to the git bash, and I'm going to do a git commit, once again, -m for my message, and I'm going to wrap my text here in double quotes. And what I'm going to say here is add dog name to dog. All right, and I'll execute that command. All right, so let's do a git status again to make sure that everything looks good. So on branch master, nothing to commit, working directory clean. That's a green light. That means everything is looking good. I'm going to go ahead now and do a git log command again. And this time we'll see that there are two log entries. The newest is going to be at the top. And you can see here that my initial commit is down at the bottom. Subsequent commits are towards the top. So as we have more and more items in the log, this list will get very, very long in an actual repository that's used for source control changes, because changes will get made, potentially many, many times throughout the day. So this list will get pretty long. And when that list does get long, you can use the up and down arrow keys to navigate through the list in this Git bash application.